Hello there, my name is Joseph Lusoma. Welcome to our channel. Today's video is going to be looking at how to import multiple files into database. Today's files we are going to be looking at are CSV files, but the same video can be used for text files. So we are going to look at three items. One, creating file path, creating tables that are going to hold our imported data, as well as creating a stored procedure that is going to be importing data from files. As you can see, I've gone ahead, already created my folders. So on my C drive, I've created importing files to DB, and in here we have two folders. New file folder is the one that is going to be holding our new files. Archive folder is going to be holding files that have already been processed. So the flow is that after a file is processed, I'm going to move that file through the stored procedure to this folder. Now let's look at our file. So this is our CSV file we are using as an example in today's video. So this is how our file looks like. Row number 1 is a column headers, as you can see. The rest are data rows. As you can see that columns are separated by commas. Please note in this example we don't need this. We shall remove it because the column headers will be created as part of the table in the SQL while processing the data. So we have to remove this and let's remain with raw data that will be imported. So the next step is to go ahead and create tables that are going to hold our data that is going to be imported. So I went ahead and created our table that is going to hold price index data. So I'm going to use this file as an example in this video. So our table has been created to match the number of columns in our data. Ensure to match the number of columns in the data to avoid any failures when you're importing data from the files. And our table, we can see, so we have created our price index table that is going to be holding our data. I'm also going to create a table that is going to keep records of files that have been processed. This is a file logs table. The table will be keeping records of files that processed, the file name and the date it was processed. Now we know that we have the file, the price index table that is going to hold our data, and also the file table that is going to hold our processed files. The next step is to create a stored procedure that is going to be running and extracting data into our price index table. We're going to create procedure. We are going to name it import files. This procedure is going to have three inputs. The first input is the file path. Now the file path is where our files are located, and also it's going to have a pattern. Now file pattern are file extensions. So if we are processing files like CSV or text files, the pattern is used to differentiate the files. Then the last parameter is going to be the table name. So the table name refers to the table where our data is going to be imported. So we are declaring, we are going to use this variable to hold our query commands. Also note that we are going to use a window functionality for whole Windows functionality CMD it's an inbuilt functionality also in SQL that will be executing commands via SQL. So this variable will be holding our command for moving the file. Because we are going to be reading file names from this folder, we are going to create a temporary table to hold our file names. So this temporary table will be holding our file names. So now we have created our temporary table. Now let's set our command. So in SQL, how we execute the command, the command is in master database. So I always make sure that I type master.db or then xp command shell. So this is the it's similar to Windows CMD. So but how we call it in SQL, we call it by executing this command. Then in order to extract file names, let me show you an example here. So the command directory /b returns file names in a given path. As you can see, only when you run directly only, it will show you extra information we don't really need. Information like date created, the file name, the size. So here we are only interested in capturing file names, extracting file names in a directory. So for this case, we are going to type the command directly, and we are going to put a file path and the pattern. So we are going to insert all file names into our temporary table. So we insert by calling the function execute and executing our query. So our query is going to execute and return all file names in that given file path. But also to note, the query is going to return files that are aligned with the pattern. For example, if the file is so sometimes after inserting file names, sometimes folders can be empty, and this command tends to insert null values in our table. So to avoid processing null values, what we do is to delete from our table, our temporary table X, where name is null. So after deleting null values from our temporary table, then we need to give a unique ID to each file name in our temporary data table. However, we are not going to do it within the same table. So what we are going to do is to insert into this value into another temporary table we've named y. So let's drop our table x, since we no longer need it. Currently our values are being held in our temporary table y, but we have gone further to give each file name a unique ID, such that when we are doing our while loop down, we shall be going through by referring to the unique IDs we have assigned to each file. So here we have declared two variables, one max1 and count1. Reason why I couldn't use max, because max is a reserved word and count is a reserved word also. So max is representing the total number of files in our table y, and count is going to be counting during our while loop. So let's get the value of max1 by selecting the maximum ID from our temporary table y. So the max ID refers to the largest ID in our temporary table. So that will refer to the largest number, the total number of names in our table. So let's also set at our count equal to 0. So what we are going to do, we are going to use a while loop. So while count 1 is less than max, where note that max is the total number of elements or names in our temporary table y. So if our count is less than max, it means there are still more elements in the table. So we are going to increment our count with 1. So we are using a while loop to pick file names from our temporary table y. So let's say we missed out declaring a file name. So let's define a file name here. And let's name it, give it 200. So let's get our file name by selecting name from our temporary table y, where ID is equal to count. So after selecting the file name, so the next step will be reading the contents of that file and inserting the contents of the file into our database. So let's use our variable query to construct a command for extracting data from the file above. So in this case, we are going to use bulk insert. So we are going to bulk insert table name, where the table name is our price index. So file path and file name will give us a complete file path. Now with our parameters or options for extracting data. So the first parameter we are going to use is the field terminator. As you can see that now the field terminator we are putting here is a comma, because our data is separated or delimited by comma. So that's why our field terminator is a comma. So another parameter is the first row. So the first row is used to determine where to start. When we say row 1, it means we start from this first exact row. When we say row 2, it means it will start on this second row. Now for this case, we want to start from row 1. And finally, the final parameter is the row terminator. So for row terminator, the row terminator is a new line. As you can see, the column terminator is a comma. Now for rows are delimited by new line. You can see each row is on a new line. So every new line means a new row. So that's why we are putting the row terminator as the new line. So this is our command to extract data from the file in this path into our table, and we have given parameters that define our data. So when bulk insert goes into the file, it will check for columns basing on the comma, and it will check for new rows basing on the new line, and it will start by extracting data from row 1. So we run this command. We run the command by executing, by calling the functionality called execute. So after executing the file, this command is going to insert data in our price index. Now after running the file, we are going to record that file in our log table. So we are going to record this file in our log table. So after logging our file, the next step will be moving that file into an archive folder. So we are going to set our variable move processed. So we are going to write a command. So in order to move files on window command, we write move then have file path, with concatenate it with the file name, so we are having, so the first part here is that we are moving a file from the source, and then this is going to be the destination. So this is going to be our file destination. However, our destination, in our destination we need to, so we are going to get the original, we have gotten the original file name, and we have removed the file extension. So when we are archiving, we are going to add a time so we are going to get the file name minus the extension, and also add a timestamp and the file extension at the end. So we've set our variable for moving a file. The last thing we need to do is to execute. Now since the variable you have created is a Windows command, so how we run it? We run it by calling master command shell, and remove the file. So finally, this is our final output. As you can see, we use a while loop to get the file names that we have temporarily saved in our database. We read the contents of the file and insert the contents of the file into our table, and we execute this variable by calling the functionality execute. Then we record the file name in our log table. Then we finally move that file to an archive location. So thank you very much for so let's run. So we have run, and when we check our stored procedure, it is there, DBO import files. So the next task will be running. It will be running our stored procedure. So this is how we run. You can see that this is our folder where the CSV files are. We've also put the file extension. This is the here. Let's run our job, our stored procedure, import files. You can see it has processed. When we check our price index, you can see that data has been imported from the file, and also when we check our file log, you can see our file has been recorded. So when we go back to our folder, you can see that our file is no longer here, but it has been moved to an archive. And you can see that we have put a timestamp on the file. Thank you very much. That's it from us today. I hope you've enjoyed, and we shall share more contents. Bye bye.